Hello and welcome to the short introduction to the Pegasus Data Connector. So, there was a requirement to offer a fast and secure and direct access to the Opera 3 SQL SE data while maintaining the secure environment. Now, there were several viable methods to achieve this requirement, and there's been a lot of technological investigations carried out to what would offer the best customer and partner experience. OData feed was the preferred method for accessing and extracting the data in an efficient and effective manner. So, what is OData? Well, OData stands for Open Data Protocol, is an ISO IEC approved OASIS standard that defines a set of best practices for building and consuming REST APIs and can be actually seen as an enhancement to REST APIs. Now, it helps to enable creation of REST-based services, which allow resources identified using Uniform Resource Locators, or URLs, and defined in a data model. That will be published and edited by web clients using simple HTTP messages. So this is where OData helps applications to focus on business logic without worrying about the various API approaches to define request and response headers, status code, HTTP methods, URL convention, media types, and so on. It provides guidance for tracking changes, defining functions and actions for reusable procedures, as well as sending asynchronous batch requests. Now, OData RESTful APIs are easy to consume. The OData metadata, a machine-readable description of the data model of the APIs, enables the creation of powerful generic client proxies and tools. Now, you can find out more information on the OData specification at www.odata.org. So, how does that fit in with Opera 3 SQL Server Edition? So you might recognize this image from various other presentations where you've got the client-server model. We've got the executable, the DLL, and the service, of course, that's running with the SAM on the server. We've got the third-party development, which is the bespoke element, as well as importer there. And then, of course, we've got the data in SQL. With the introduction of the data connector, well, we're going to add another element to the diagram. We've got the data connector there, which, via the web server with an SE connector, provides services and code. Now, the client-server model is a distributed application structure and allocates tasks and workload between the server and the client computers. The TPD and importer are the mechanisms by which external data is written back into Opera 3 SQL SE. So why use OData, and what does that really mean for Opera 3 SQL SE? Well, it's using fast and modern technology to access data and has a flexible querying. This can be used in multiple ways. Can be accessed via numerous applications in a very simple manner. OData needs an endpoint for each table and allows additional parameters on the URL to refine the query, making it a very versatile option. Now, results are returned as JSON, including a few extra OData specific enhancements. Remember, JSON is really seen as replacing the XML as the standard format for data transfer online. It's hierarchical, not tabular, so child data is generally nested beneath the parent for optimizing data interrogation. And the method of deployment and access will ensure the Opera 3 SQL SE security is completely maintained. Okay, well, how will that actually work with Opera 3 SQL SE? Well, firstly, the Opera 3 SQL SE data connector will be installed alongside SAM and will be integrated with IIS for that excellent data integration and access. It will be presented with a friendly dictionary, including some predefined links. Bespoke data will automatically be pulled through. So if you've got those extra tables and fields that you've added via the DIT, well, they're going to be included and presented in that friendly manner via the OData feed. There is also the ability to manipulate the OData to whatever is required. Now let's go through a few examples there. The first one is, that's accessing the full set of company tables. You could tailor that URL. You could select a few fields instead of all of them. As you can see there, I'm selecting the account code name, current balance, and the stop state. I could even go a step further to restrict the results to account with balances over 1,000. And I can go even further than that. I can then include ordering it by descending order based on the balance. Now, the important point here is by using the OData standards, less data is being passed through the entire system. It's database driver, data connector, HTTP responsive, receiving client. Okay, let's see this in action with some of the capabilities the data connector can offer. Okay, let's see this in action to see some of the capabilities the data connector can offer. So I'm just going to switch to Excel. Now, I know you're probably wondering, why am I showing you Excel when we have the brilliant XRL? I totally understand. And as you are aware, I love XRL. It's a fantastic application and I still love XRL. Don't get me wrong, XRL is fantastic and you can do most things quite easily. However, there are obviously certain limitations and different approaches when designing with XRL. And for more complex requirements, then there is the potential of requiring some macros and VBA. Of course, it can be done, but it does end up being a bit more complex. So from my experience, when I've been out on site, from a reporting perspective, I've always had two main types of requests. One is what I call the pretty reports. That is aesthetically pleasing, mixed with some automation, buttons, KPIs, and so on. Now, these are usually for key decision makers, directors, and so forth. And yes, XRL is absolutely brilliant for that. However, I also get many of the second type of requests where they just want a simple transactional report. No fuss, just the information. Just give me the data. And yes, Reporter Reports did that in Opera 3 VFP, or a simple XRL report is able to offer that as well, of course. But as you are aware, SE doesn't have Reporter Reports, and with XRL, yes, it may be a simple report, but the refresh would need some form of processing, or some setting up, or some funky VBA applied. And remember, you must have XRL in order to refresh. So that's where the data connector really comes into play for SE. Now, let me go through showing you the power of the data connector and what this brings to the table. Now, Excel is also one of the simpler reporting applications that can demonstrate this. I can use any reporting application that supports OData feeds, but XRL is a good medium to show it. Okay, so on this new sheet, what I'm going to do, just select cell B2. I'm going to go to data. I'm going to go get data from other sources and from the OData feed. Now this is going to come up, and as you can see, it's requesting a URL. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch to my presentation there. With those examples that I was showing you earlier, I'm just going to use one of them. Okay, let's grab that top one there for the full set of tables. Just being offered the ones which have been tailored for myself. Okay, now as you can see, I've got sales accounts, sales status history, lookups, and sales transactions. Let's just keep it nice and simple. I'm just going to choose something like the sales accounts. You can see the preview, it's coming through there. Nothing's stopping me clicking on transform data, and that's really powerful because it takes you into the Power Query editor and you can transform data to your heart's content, adding measures, adding new potential columns and so forth, calculated fields, and so on. Transform data is a very powerful method of manipulating the data. I'm going to keep it nice and simple though. I'm just going to click load. As you can see, I've got my queries and connections there. And there's my data. As you can see there, nice and simple. All the fields from the sales accounts table. Okay. That's not too different how I would use maybe a detail report in XRL, or what I used to do maybe in Reporter Reports. But keep in mind that SE doesn't have the Reporter Reports, and XRL would need something extra for that recalculation. It's not complex, but it needs that extra and so on. Okay, well, now let me create another one with a more tailored extraction, something that I mentioned earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next sheet, and I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint, and I'm going to take this one down here. As you can see, I'm selecting several fields only, so 4 fields only. I only want the accounts that have got a balance higher than 1,000, and I want to order it as well. Fantastic. So I'm going to take that URL. I'm going to go back to the data option there, get data from other data sources, and then from the OData feed. It's asking me for the URL. I'm going to paste that in there. As you can see, I've got those extra commands as part of the URL there, and I'm going to click OK. And as you can see there, we've got the sales account, the name, the current balance, and stop status field. Now, of course, those are the 4 fields that are requested as part of that URL command. Again, I've got access to the transform data. Very powerful to edit that in Power Query. I'm just going to keep it simple and click load. Again, we have a lovely list, But this is a far more direct extraction, meaning less data traffic and so on. Now, Techa consultants should love this, as you can actually tailor these queries as you need. But let's start delving into this a little bit more. So what I'm going to do, I'll take the column C there. I might format that to money so we can see it's a little bit neater there. Okay, well, while I've got the table selected, I'm just going to click on the table design in the ribbon bar here. Yes, I've got this lovely refresh option. Now, if I just click on that though, I can get into the connection properties. And here you can see I've got some excellent refresh controls. The sensible one, probably refresh data when opening the file. That sort of makes sense there. But just for this demonstration, I'm going to refresh it for, let's say, every 1 minute, as we can see there. Okay, well, let me just have Opera 3 SQL SE next to Excel. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into sales processing. Let's have a quick look. So we've got Anderson's Car Factors Limited. Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. Let's find them in the list there. Anderson Car Factors. Lovely. I'm going to click action. That's a nice even 9,000 balance that they've got there. You can see the current balance there. Let me just post an invoice for them. Yes, I know they're over the credit limit, but I am going to continue. I'm going to put in and the future period is blocked, so that's absolutely fine. I'm just going to continue. I'm happy with that. I'm going to put in let's say a transaction value of £2,400. I'm going to click OK on that. Yes, it's warning me about that sales period. Again, that's fine. Any analysis code. And I'm going to just add the goods value in here. Okay, lovely. Of course, let's keep that nice and simple, 2,400. I'll do it as 0 rated, that will do. And let's post that. Are you sure you want to post the invoice? Yep, I do. It's warning me, customers over credit limit, that's absolutely fine. Now you can see that the current balance has changed to 11,400. I'm not going to touch the machine now, so just keep an eye on that table that we've got there. The Anderson Car Factors is still sitting at £9,000, but of course I have set the refresh up so that it will refresh every 1 minute, and of course it's using that live OData feed. And as you can see there, the Anderson Car Factors has automatically updated to the £11,400. Now, I do appreciate that XRL can have a refresh button, you can have some VBA, a recalc, or you can even right mouse click and recalc, a level of automation with scheduled automatic refreshes, with the magic of VBA, and so on. But I'm sure you would agree, ticking a few boxes is far simpler and easier. It's fast, it's effective, it's efficient, simple to refresh, and automatic calculation stays on. There's no need for an XRL login either. And remember, this is all with the security model linked to the Opera user permissions. So hopefully you can start to see the power of what is on offer here. And voila, I've been chatting away, but that report has just updated. All securely and efficiently using the data connector with Excel.
Okay, so let's go a step further. Now we can use pretty much any reporting apps that will support OData feeds. And I'm sure most of you will agree that Power BI is one of the more popular solutions, not only for its reporting and dashboard capabilities, but also for its seamless integration with the Power family. So things such as Power Apps, Power Automation, and so on. So let's have a very brief look at Power BI. So let me just launch that. Okay, so let's create a brand new report. So I'm going to click on New. And we need to start off by getting some data. Now it's going to be that OData feed option again. So let me just click on Get Data from Another Source. In the list, I'm just going to type in the search. There's my OData feed option. Fantastic. Okay, so we've got that URL option again. So let's go to the company level and let's click OK. Okay, I'm going to select all the tables, but remember you can be far more selective with the OData feeds if necessary. That could really help with reducing the amount of data modeling required. However, let's keep it nice and simple. We've selected all the table, and we can go into that transform data again and go into the Power Query Editor, do a lot of manipulation, and of course, there is an element of data modeling control that you have there as well. In most cases, you do want to spend some time with the data modeling, but remember, it's already got the friendly names and it's got some appropriate direct links. I mean, I'll ensure that the main tables are linked together appropriately, but that information in terms of the friendly nature, the friendly tables, the friendly field names, it's all there via the OData feed. Okay, so I'm just going to click load and start the design process. Fantastic, I now have my data. But rather than starting to jump straight in and add those visuals and formatting them, which there is so much control there, which is fantastic, but I already know the layout I'm after. So in some cases, it might be easier to have that predefined template that I'm going to be working to. So I'm going to do that via adding a canvas. So I'm just going to click on the format. I'm going to go to the canvas background. Let me just choose one. I'll just go to my desktop there. We'll go for, well, blue, green. I'll go for blue at this moment in time. Fantastic. I'm going to set the transparency down to 0 there, and I'm going to set it to fit. Now, I do appreciate there are so many methods and approaches you can apply when report designing, and there's no right or wrong here. Everyone's going to have their preferred methods and their preferred processes. I just quite like the idea of I already know the type of information I'm after. I'm going to build that template into an image, use it as a canvas, and then I don't have to worry about manipulating each of the individual visuals I'm going to be adding in Power BI. And as you can see there, I want things such as the revenue, balance, and so on. So what I can start doing is keying that in. So let's actually go to sales transactions. And what I might want to do is I want to get the value in there. So I'm just going to drop that into the report design. I've got the value there. As the sum. What I also want to do is I want to have a quick look at the type. I want to do that as a bit of a filter, so I'm going to get that filter in there. Let's have a look. I only want the invoices, of course, because that's the turnover value that I want. But what I can now do is do some basic formatting on this particular visual. I actually don't need the category label. So let's take that off. And if I just have a look at the size and style, I want to get rid of the background as well. And as you can see, well, I've got my value there, and I can just pop that into the predefined box of the layout that I've already got there. And it might be that I want to do a bit more. Well, okay, let's get maybe a bar chart in there or something. So let me just click on the bar chart there, stick that there. I want the value to go into the chart. What I also want, of course, is I want to do that filtering potentially again. So let's get that type, or in fact I could just drop that in there and see what it does, and you can see it's summing the value by type, and you can start manipulating, creating as per your requirements, which is quite nice there. And of course, again, I can switch off the background, I can take off the title, and it fits nicely into my design. And what's nice about this, of course, is let's say that I need to apply a different color scheme to it. Well, I could have some predefined ones for that. So maybe people struggle with the blue color and they want something different. Okay, well, let's get rid of that. You can see the visuals stay there, which is brilliant. Well, the visuals look a bit confusing now because it's just some random bits of information there. But if I just choose something like the green one, or even the sort of the mini pink one here, click that, add that in, fit it to the screen. You can see you can start designing these reports and these dashboards very, very quickly. Okay, well, I'm not here to demo designing in Power BI because I'm sure you are all experts already. So let me switch to one that I've created and published earlier. So if I just go to my desktop, I'm going to launch the sales report that I created earlier. And there it is, launching my report design. Now, as you can see, it's a very similar concept. Now, of course, with this Power BI design, I've actually set up alerts as well, because you can create alerts with Power BI, which is a great tool built into the application. And what it can also handle is automatic refreshes as well. So I've set them up to be scheduled, so it will refresh the data on a daily basis. Remember, this can all be extended into Power Automate, Power Apps, and its Power Family integration. Of course, it's all interactive, so if I just click on, let's say, a particular region, you can see that it affects the whole of the report design. A nice little view there. It's fantastic. I've got a little option here that I can switch between two different styles of charts. That's all part of my Power BI design there. You can see if I click on a particular year, again, you can see all the metrics and the visuals changing because of all that built-in functionality with Power BI. What I've also added are some filters at the top there, so filtering for year, month, territory codes, and so on. But what I've also got is I've got the Power BI Q&A integration that you can see on the left-hand side here. There's actually some predefined Q&As there. It's using maybe some language that we're used to. Oh, sort sales accounts or sort sales accounts by dormant. The fact is, because the OData feed is feeding the data in a friendly manner, so we're not seeing things like sname.sn underscore or stran.st underscore and so forth. It's all friendly. And because of that, the AI built into the Power BI is looking at that information and finding it easier to have those pre-built ones. There's nothing stopping you typing in a question of something like highest invoice and things like that. And you can see it's trying to help you as you are typing into the Q&A box. Of course, this is using the power of the application itself. So Power BI mixed with that friendly publishing of the OData feed of the SE data. Now I've actually created a couple of report designs here. So what I could do is just click on the, let's go to territory sales, and as you can see, it's got a slightly different look and feel. I've got the Q&A at the top there where I can ask questions of that particular data that's on this particular report. What you'll notice is quite interactive again, nothing stopping me sort of clicking on some of these visuals, and you can see that the data just refreshes itself because it's all linked together. Okay. Now, what you can also see is that there is a bit of an obvious visual which looks a little bit different to the others. Absolutely. So before I get on to that, I just want to talk a little bit about getting data into SE. Now, currently, there are only two main methods of getting data into SE itself, and that is via the DIT, which includes the fantastic EAT, the External Access Tool, which is part of DIT. Now, I assume that you saw the recent example that was sent out showcasing the web forms examples and its integration with EAT and SE. Now, the second method, of course, is using the importer, whether that's manually importing the data or using a simple call to the importer DLL. Now, I never realized that you could use only a couple of lines of codes in any COM-compliant language to call and run the importer with an actual example detailed in the importer DIT help. So to run through an example, if I go to this territory report, you may notice that this visual is a little bit different. It's sort of a predefined table there, but it's got those filters for year and period. Now, what I've also done is I've created a basic commission calculation that basically calculates out for each sale, so for each invoice that is posted, it earns the territory or it earns the sales representative a 2.5% commission. So this visual is actually taking all the invoices for the respective territories, which are of course aligned to an employee in the demo data. So for example, I'm going to filter for 2024. So let me just untick that, 2024, and let's go for period 3. And there we have it, the commission that is calculated out for that particular period. So let's presume that the commission is paid via the Opera payroll. Now, the beauty with this is that I can actually export this data to CSV because I've set it up to do so. So let's actually do that on the table. I'm going to click on the ellipse button. I'm going to select to export the data. I'm going to choose summarize data. And of course, from the drop down, I am going to choose CSV because that is the supported format for us. And I'm just going to click export. Now you can see that's exported successfully. Let's just quickly open that up so you can actually see what it's produced there. I have aligned the territories with the employee codes as appropriate because there is a link between the two. You will be able to see that, of course, in the demonstration data. This is just a very simple example. You can see you've got your employee references there. I've predefined the payment code there, and you've got the sum of the commission. Fantastic. I've then also created a simple executable from the example code that I took from the importer help and in regards to setting it up for payroll timesheets. Now I've also set it up to run a scheduled task. So if I go into the scheduler and go to Pegasus, and there we go, commission. That's the little scheduled task I've set up to run the executable that I created. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to force to run it right now. That's going to go away, run those couple of lines of code that I turned into an executable, of course, and what it's going to do is call the importer, grab that exported CSV file, and then place it into Opera SE. Okay, fantastic. Let me just open up Opera SE. I'm going to log in. Okay, fantastic. Let me just go to the payroll. Let me go to processing. If I just switch back to my dashboard there, who shall we check? Oh, what about 3020? They got a commission of £509. That's quite nice. Let's just go in there. I'm going to find my employee, 3020. Let's go to my payments and deductions. And there you have it. There's my £509 commission imported, ready to be paid for that sales representative. So I do appreciate that this is a very, very basic example using the importer, and I also understand that the importer is limited to what it can import. However, this is an area that is currently under further investigation into extending the capabilities of the importer. So I think you will agree that this is a real big positive step forward. Thank you for taking the time to watch this short demonstration.